Hello, everyone. I hope you are joining okay. I can see some of the numbers ticking up now. So some of you joining the room, welcome. We'll get started at top of the hour. So we've got a minute for you to settle in. See more people joining. Just give it a moment. Hello to those of you joining. We're just waiting for more people to join, settling in before we start. Thank you for the heart. And yes, you have noticed the reactions are on, so feel free to react. Okay. Still not quite top of the hour where I am. I don't know about you guys. I'm based in the UK, by the way, so it's 5 p.m. here, and I didn't want to say the time because it's probably not that time where you are. So it's top of the hour. We'll get started. So thank you for joining. Glad to have you with us for the next 45 minutes as we discover the newest features in PRTG, as well as answer this question that you can see here on screen. So can Paessler PRTG run without Windows? And what does this mean for your network and your operational costs? So my name's Natalie, and I am your host for this session. I would like to get started with some housekeeping first of all. So just so you know, you are all muted and the cameras are switched off. We are recording today's session and we'll be following up with that recording likely tomorrow along with the slides. So you will get everything sent to you in an email. There are some links as we go through, and so don't worry about noting those down or clicking anything. We'll be sending it afterwards, hopefully by tomorrow. Also, during the session, you can ask questions. So there is a feature in Zoom, Q&A. Just type in your question there when they come to mind, and I will pop up at the end. And the people on the screen here with me will help to get those questions answered for you. Okay, and there will be a couple of polls running as well. So I will pop up on screen at different points throughout the presentation and ask for your feedback. So I encourage you to take part in those polls. And what have I missed? We also have a fun quiz at the end as well, just to make sure you've been listening. So I'm going to introduce you now to Susanna and Daniel, who you can see on screen. They're going to be speaking, they're going to be presenting the slides today. You will also see Jörg here on screen. He's going to be helping with the Q&A in the background. We'll try and get those answered throughout. And as I say, at the end of the session, if we don't get to the question, because there may be a lot, we had the same session earlier today and there was a lot of questions. So if we don't get to them, don't worry, we'll follow up afterwards. So for now, I'm going to switch off my camera and hand over to Daniel and Susanna, who are going to take you through the presentation, and we will see you later on. All right, enjoy.
Thank you, Natalie. So hello from me as well. So you had a question. Can PRTG run without Windows? And we really don't want to keep you in suspense any longer. So the short answer is yes. The long answer is it can run without Windows if you have PRTG Hosted Monitor together with the multi-platform probe. Another question that we got pretty often was, can I reach a part of my network I previously couldn't, which is also now true, because now you can reach different parts of your network that don't have Windows devices, because you can use the multi-platform probe on different devices, and you can now monitor those locations. And another question that we are asked is, can I slash down licensing costs? And the answer there is also yes, because now you can reduce the dependency on Windows licenses and use other software, like, for example, the Raspberry Pi, that is more affordable, and then save costs in that way. So licensing costs, hardware and energy costs. So when we move on to the next slide, we will see the agenda for today. And today we're going to talk about a lot of things. So we will talk about new sensors and the script sensor and the device templates. Then we will move on to the Autodiscovery, and that has new functionality now, and we will go into that in a bit. We will talk about the API v2 and the parts that are stable. And then we will introduce the multi-platform probe. We will talk about what it is, how it works, where to find it, how to install it, and the roadmap, what to expect in the next few releases. So I will now hand over to Daniel, where he will explain everything about the script v2 sensor.
Thank you, Susanna. So the script sensor is available in a new version now. In the past, we have already had a custom script sensor in PRTG, and now we have made it even better. You might have tried out already earlier versions of the new script sensor while it was in beta status, and now it's officially released as stable, and here is what you can expect. So whenever you cannot find a sensor type that fits your specific monitoring need, you need to monitor something, but PRTG does not come with an out-of-the-box sensor for this, the custom script sensor is your go-to solution. It supports Python scripts and it returns JSON. And it makes it super easy for you to create your own sensors. We have also added something new. And attention, now a lot of new information pops up on the screen. It supports a JSON schema. This means that it makes sure that your sensor reports accurate values back to PRTG. And this JSON schema also enables you to maintain your custom sensors much more easy. And it also helps you adding backward compatibility to your custom sensors. So on the right, you'll find everything you need to get started with your own sensors right away. So we have the knowledge base article, which describes the JSON schema. We have example scripts to get you up and running really fast. And of course, we have the link to the manual that describes the sensor in very detail and also talks about the prerequisites that you need to meet to run the sensor on your probe. And looking ahead, we also want to support more scripting languages. Today, we support Python only for a start. Python is a very mighty language, and you can basically program anything you might need with it. But we know that you guys probably are also looking forward to having a support for PowerShell. And this is there is no timeline left for PowerShell support, but we are looking into whether or not we should support that in future. And if you have any feedback on that, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can write, for example, an email at any time to roadmap@paessler.com. We are always happy to listen. And we would also like to learn what you use your scripts for. So what do you do when you write your custom scripts, and what's the value for you and your setup? We would like to learn from that and learn from you how to improve there. So Susanna, there's also news for the device templates, right?
Yes, of course there is. So a device template, in case somebody does not know, they're used to quickly set up devices using pre-configured settings, basically, or predefined configurations. And we now have, we support device templates for over 20 additional sensors. This means, and in addition to that, we also support device templates on the multi-platform probe, which means you can now set up devices using the amazing 20 new sensors. And then you can configure a device template, and then you can add new devices, or you can use the template to make faster or to like build the setup you want in a very fast and efficient and good way, basically. And you can see down here, we have some new sensors that offer now template support. And those are the REST custom sensor, the SNMP sensor, the NetApp sensors, and the Redfish sensors. So you can do really fast configurations using these sensors. So Daniel, what's the next topic?
There is also a new little feature that regarding the auto-discovery that we have in PRTG. So you all know the PRTG auto-discovery. It's a starting point for most of your actions whenever you need to add new devices or new sensors to your PRTG configuration. And it's a powerful tool that can discover entire network segments. And you know you have several default options to start this discovery. So you can enter a Class C base IP with start and end. You can paste in a list of IP addresses. You can go with an IP address with octet range. You can discover computers from Active Directory. And this is our new optimized option, you can enter an IP address in combination with a subnet. And previously, you could only discover one subnet at a time. And now you can use an easy comma-separated notation to enter multiple subnets, and they will be discovered in a single run within the same group, within one discovery. And after discovery, you can still rearrange everything in the device tree as you wish. This feature remains unchanged. And we believe that this small addition brings you really great ease of use. And we know that some of you have really been waiting for it. And maybe, who knows, due to the bigger scan ranges, you will now also find devices that you did not expect to be there in your network. So, however, we wish you a lot of fun with the easier discovery of the PRTG auto discovery. And Susanna, there is also news for the API in our new version.
Yes, of course there are. So the API v2. The API v2 is basically a REST API to interact with PRTG. And we're working really, really hard to try to support most use cases, integration use cases, and automation use cases. For example, being able to get current status information and metrics from PRTG or out of PRTG, to be able to configure devices and sensors in PRTG using other like third-party systems. And while it's still in progress, while the API v2 is still in progress, parts of it or different endpoints are now stable, and you can use it in your productive systems. And so if you have been using it already, then please follow the link on the right side of the screen, so under the green box, and there you can get more information and give us feedback, because feedback is very important to us so that we can improve and be able to develop more. And then on the left side, we have the, if you haven't tried it yet at all, then you can get more information on the red box, like in the links in the red box. And then, of course, once you do try it, then please give us feedback as well, because we really appreciate it. And a lot of the things that we do are based on the feedback you give us. So next, we have the multi-platform probe. And I'm now going to explain to you what it is. So the multi-platform probe is a metric collecting component of PRTG. It's similar to the classic probe, to the probe you know. However, it runs on different systems. So it runs on Linux, it runs on ARM, it runs on container platforms, and it's mainly a remote probe. So as you can, well, before I tell you more, Natalie came on the screen, which means we have a poll, right?
I didn't want to interrupt you, Susanna. You can continue. But I hope you've understood that the multi-platform probe can run on multiple platforms. But I'd like to understand, or we'd like to understand from you, where you intend to run it, if you've given it some thought. So I'm going to run a poll for you now, and would really love you to pop in your answer. You can obviously select multiple choice. You may want to run it on several different platforms. If you're not sure, that's absolutely fine. You can hit that option too. But I'll give you a couple of minutes to do that. And Susanna, you can continue talking if you wish while they are doing the poll.
Yes, I would love that. So if we go to the next slide, Daniel, there you can see that the multi-platform probe is basically a remote probe. So if you are applying distributed monitoring, then you can use the remote probe or you can use the multi-platform probe to monitor the different locations that you have in your setup. And now the flexibility that the multi-platform probe gives is that you can now use it on all kinds of hardware and operating systems and platform, not only Windows that was in the past. And some examples of these platforms and different hardware you can see here on the screen. So we have different gateways, switches, edge switches, or different data centers, or you can use cloud platforms to as a base. And basically now you can reach systems that before were not possible with the old classic probe. There is another difference with the classic probe. So here we see that the multi-platform probe now has two additional components. So we have the NAT server. The NAT server is responsible for handling communication between the multi-platform probe and the PRTG core server. And this is a component that currently needs to be installed manually. So there are some steps. Daniel will explain everything in a bit. And then you have the probe adapter. And the probe adapter is installed together with the core. And that is done like automatically. So it's together with the core. So there you don't need to do a manual step. So now I will hand over to Daniel. Sorry, no, that's still me. So here we can see the available sensors that are available in the multi-platform probe. Here we can see we have a variety of sensors that are available on the multi-platform probe. At this point, I should say that not all the sensors in the classic probe are available in the multi-platform probe. Here we can see the sensors we have. So here on the left side, you see all the native sensors that we offer. So we have many, we offer sensors that are pre-configured. You just need to add some credentials. And then you add the sensor and the channels are there already, and then you can monitor your systems. And we have many logos, so like the HP 3PAR, OPC UA, NetApp, Veeam, Dell EMC. And you can monitor all the systems that you have in your setup. And on the left side, or on the right side, I'm sorry, we have the custom sensors. And there you can add the sensors you have, and you can configure them as you want using the protocol you want, or the protocol, your preferred protocol, to get the metrics you want to monitor your systems efficiently. And there's many protocols available. So the REST, for example, we have the REST custom v2, the HTTP, SNMP sensors, the script v2 that was introduced earlier. And then you can configure your monitoring system to monitor anything you want with the protocol that you need or want. So now I'm going to hand over to Daniel.
Thank you, Susanna. Now let's take a look at how PRTG probes have evolved. over time. Initially, as already mentioned several times, we were quite dependent on Windows with our classic remote probe. Then we moved to a cross-platform approach with the multi-platform probe. And now, by running the multi-platform probe in a container, we've become even more flexible with different architectures. And in the next few minutes, we will dive into some use cases that highlight these different stages in more detail. So the first use case for the multi-platform probe is that you can finally monitor from systems that are not running on a Linux OS. So this means the probe can run on most Linux systems, even on ARM architecture, as Susanna just showed, and on container platforms. And unlike the classic Windows-only remote probe, this makes it easier to extend your monitoring setup. So, for example, you might not have been able to install a Windows server in a remote location before due to regulatory reasons or because company policies didn't allow you to do, or other reasons. So now with multi-platform probe, you may be able to reach that part of your network and integrate it into your central monitoring. And on the other hand, you'll also save money. So first of all, you will save on Windows license costs, and you can also opt, in most cases, opt for cheaper hardware, which will reduce costs even further. So think, for example, as Susanna mentioned, using a Raspberry Pi or cheap boxes with some x64 CPU. The multi-platform probe can even run on existing hardware, like, for example, larger switches or network-attached storage systems that you already have anyway in your network. And we've seen that in the graphic before also. And of course, the connection between the PRTG server and the remote probe always meets highest security standards in transport encryption. We know that for you, the security is really important, and we stick to that. So just as with the classic remote probe, we will continue to always support the latest transport encryption to ensure security. The next use case is the containerized monitoring. And we will see that this enables not only new possibilities in the IT space that you're in, but also in the OT, operational technology space. So if you have some connections into the OT space, this can be something for you too. So what do we mean by that? As you already know, the remote probe, the multi-platform probe can now run in a container, and this opens up totally new deployment methods. So in classic IT environments, you can use containers to deploy the probe on existing hardware, like switches or NAS systems. And this way it runs encapsulated from the existing system and does not interfere with existing functionality there. And if you have connection points with operational technology, the containerized multi-platform probe makes integration easier. So this can be especially useful for industrial equipment where regulations often apply. So you're not allowed to install something on there because it could interfere with existing functionality. You might lose your certification, and this can mess up regulations, right? And deploying containers instead is often allowed. And so you can deploy a container using the multi-platform probe, and this can get you a foot into the door in the OT space. And finally, you can also use automation tools to deploy your containers. For example, if you have Portainer already running in your environment, or other automation tools to orchestrate your containers. So this can also ease the management of your multi-platform deployment. And finally, if you're looking for a setup that does not require any Windows in your monitoring, you can have a Windows-less monitoring in combination with PRTG Hosted Monitor. So in this scenario, you have a setup that works without any Windows servers in your environment, because apparently we host the PRTG server for you. When you have a traditional PRTG Network Monitor on premises, you require a Windows server in your premises where PRTG runs on. With PRTG Hosted Monitor, we host the server for you, and it is your solution to get rid of the Windows server requirements altogether. So in combination with a multi-platform probe, we can now offer a setup that is completely Windows-less. And in that scenario, you profit from greater flexibility and a faster setup, because all you need to integrate in your network is a multi-platform probe on your premises, because the server's already there. And you'll save money. First of all, you'll save the complete hardware costs, energy costs, and Windows license costs of the PRTG server, of course. And you will also save on the multi-platform probe side. There you can save on hardware costs, because less powerful hardware is sufficient in many cases. And you can also profit from lower maintenance costs, because it's on Linux, and this gives you also the chance for better stability and security. And this highly depends on the company you work for, of course, but it can also be easier to get it through regulations and company policies, because you do not have that Windows requirement any longer, but you just can deploy Linux-based remote probes, and everything else is outside of your network. Overall, all of this can get you to places where you could not get before with PRTG. And Natalie, now we have another poll prepared.
We
right?
do, and apologies, I hope I didn't put you off. I popped up way too soon then. But thank you for walking through the use cases. And yeah, once again, we'd like to understand from all of you, if you have thought about use cases for your organization, how this platform, multi-platform probe, can benefit you in your organization. So I'm just going to launch another poll. Before I do that, I forgot to give the results of the last poll. For those of you who are interested, Linux, about 50% of you said you'd probably run the multi-platform probe on Linux, and about 20% Docker. So those were the top two platforms that you were contemplating running this probe on. So that was just some interesting feedback there. And now I'm going to launch the poll to find out what the use case could look like in your own organizations. Again, I'll give you a couple of minutes to put your answers in, and I can see on my screen here, which is why I keep looking over here, that the votes are going up. So thank you very much. It's really interesting for us to get this feedback, so really appreciate your comments. Okay, we'll just give you a minute. Okay. Again, some of you recognizing the use case here to be more cost efficient and to reach parts of the network we couldn't before. So these are the top two use cases. Compliance is also not as important as the others, clearly. All right, then I will leave that poll on and let Daniel continue. Thank you.
Now we want to look at ways to install the multi-platform probe. So we will be really quick with that one, because when installing it, you will need a step-by-step instruction next to your screen, and you will need to go through. But I want to show you very quickly how you can install it. So when you get the instructions from us right after that webinar, you know where to start, and you already have heard how the architecture is and what you basically need to do, okay? So really quick overview, but the real instructions will follow after the webinar in your email inbox. So we've seen that basic architecture overview from Susanna before. Just a quick reminder, the setup always consists of the PRTG server. The probe adapter is automatically installed together with the PRTG server. You have on the very left side the multi-platform probe in one of the flavors in which it is available. And for communication between the PRTG core server side and the multi-platform probe, you will need to install a message broker for communication between the two components 2 and 3 here. So the NAT server is also we provided as an installer for Windows, and we recommend to install it on the core server together with your PRTG installation. And now the question is where to get the multi-platform probe, and the answer is as of the next PRTG version, which will be released in just a few days, you will be able to get the multi-platform probe from within the PRTG installation. So under setup, optional downloads, remote probes, you will see a section for the multi-platform probe, and it gets you directly to the download. Because this is only available in preview today, and most of you are likely running live systems that only have the stable version installed, of course, we will give you the information also as a preview right after the webinar in your email inbox. So the download includes a NATS install wizard. So this is a download that installs the NAT server, and also with a wizard that pops up and guides you through the setup of the NAT server. And there are Linux packages available for supported platforms, and we host those repositories. And we have repositories for Debian, for Ubuntu, and for Red Hat Enterprise. The second option to get the multi-platform probe part is to download a ready container with the latest version of the multi-platform probe. This is an easy installation from Docker Hub, and you can click on the link or scan the QR code to get to the Docker Hub where the container is available, and we make sure that we will always provide the latest version of the multi-platform probe in that container, so it is ready for use to you. And the third option is using the multi-platform probe in combination with PRTG Hosted. We already talked about Hosted in combination with the multi-platform probe, and the really cool thing with PRTG Hosted is you log into the customer portal of your PRTG Hosted instance, and there you have to enable multi-platform probe first. This is a one-time action, and you have to do it so we can prepare everything in the background, and we know you agree to using the multi-platform probe. And once you activate that, we will install the NAT server for you, so you don't have to care for that. And the really great thing about that is we will also do all the certificate management for you. So the NAT server comes with a public certificate on Hosted, so you don't have to worry about any of the connection details. We do it all for you. So in combination with PRTG Hosted, all you have to do is download the multi-platform probe and connect it to your hosted instance. We have explained in detail how to do that in that knowledge base article. you can click the link once you get the PDF or scan the QR code now. So remember, the easiest way to get the multi-platform probe is through Hosted Monitor. But of course, you can also use the multi-platform probe in combination with your on-premises PRTG installations. Thank you very much for your reactions. I'm happy that you like how easy we make it for you to use it with Hosted. We put a lot of effort into that, and I will let the team know that it was worth the effort, apparently. Thank you very much. So, Susanna, what's next with the multi-platform probe?
Thank you, Daniel. So now I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what to expect in Q4 and beyond. So we continuously try to support more and more sensors on the multi-platform probe. The next sensors you should expect are the cloud sensors. So that includes the AWS sensors, the Microsoft 365 sensors, and the Microsoft Azure sensors. And we generally always try to increase the sensor portfolio, let's say, in the available on the multi-platform probe. After that, the next thing we're going to work on is what we call data integrity in case of connection problems, which means if there's a downtime or connection loss, then data is still collected and you can access it once connection is established again for the multi-platform probe. And then finally, we had implemented the certificate handling, but from feedback, we realized that maybe we could improve the usability of it. And these improvements will be available then in one of the upcoming releases. And this will, this will help with entering more security and usability of the certificate handling. So that's what to expect. And now I'm going to hand over to Natalie for a fun quiz.
Yes, thank you. I just had a quick sneeze there. I timed it just right before it came on screen. So we promised there would be a quiz at the end. This is just to make sure you've been listening closely. So I'm going to launch that quiz now and give you some time to do that before we get to the Q&A. You've probably seen Jörg answering some of your questions already, but we will be picking out some live as well. But in the meantime, go ahead, have a read of the quiz. And let's see if you were listening. No one's going for the quiz. Oh, there we go. Interesting. Again, I'm just looking over at my screen to see your responses. And it looks like you're listening very well. Yes. Great. So it looks like we've learned some things today. So we've learned that we can run PRTG without Windows as long as we run that in combination with Hosted Monitor, which hosts the core server for you. We've also learned that we can reach parts of the network that we previously couldn't with multi-platform probe. Yes, correct. And that it's possible to slash licensing costs by COS, especially when we use Hosted Monitor with multi-platform probe, we can avoid any dependency on Windows and also use more cost-effective platforms to run the probes as well in the future. So well done. We're going to end that now, and we will jump over to the Q&A session. And as I say, you've probably seen everyone come back on screen now because these guys are going to help us answer the questions. You've seen Jörg in the background answering some of yours already. Well done, Jörg. You got 11 done, but we do have a few more. So we're going to start with a question here. It is about the API version 2. So I'm going to ask the question. I'm just going to read it off my screen. Does using API v2 mean that v1 cannot be used anymore? And is there a way to go back? Who wants to take that question?
I would love to. Together with the new app server that you can now activate on your existing PRTG installation, the new version of the API is available. And currently, the existing web server and the new app server run side by side, which means that the old version of the API and the new version of the API currently coexist on your system. This is because the new version of the API is still in progress. And of course, we don't want you to lose any functionality. So for the time being, API v1 and API v2 are available at the same time under different ports, apparently. There will be a point of time where we ultimately switch off the old version of the API, but we will let you know before, of course. And for now, it's easy to switch to the next version of the API because it's just available side by side.
Excellent, thank you. Hope that answered the question. And just another question about multi-platform probe. I don't know, Jörg, you may have answered it in your questions. I've not filtered through them, but what happens when communication is lost between the core server and the multi-platform probe? Perhaps you can explain how that works.
This is also a very good question, and it is always important that the connection is reliable, right? And it's always a question, what if the connection breaks? And we have implemented a caching into the multi-platform probe. It works quite similar to the one of the classic probe. It caches your values for quite some time, and it always depends on the sensor count and on your scanning interval, how long the caching can go. So for example, if you have deployed 100 sensors on your multi-platform probe with a 1-minute interval, the caching would go on for 7 days. And whenever the multi-platform probe can reconnect to the PRTG server, it will hand in the collected values. Currently, we are investigating how we can even enlarge the time span for the caching. And I have to say, currently for the multi-platform probe, the caching is in memory only, so it does not survive a remote, a multi-platform restart. So we are also looking into making the cache persistent to hard disk, basically, so it will survive a restart in future.
Okay, thank you. I hope that answered the question there. Feel free to put a thumbs up if it did. We have about 4 minutes. I don't know if the team here saw any questions that they would like to pick out and answer. Give you a minute to see if there was any you wanted to talk about here.
Well, there was the question regarding Rocky Linux. I like that question a lot. We tested the multi-platform probe on Debian, Ubuntu, and Red Hat, but we can not test every Linux distribution that is out there. It's just too many. I love that question. If you can try it out on Rocky and try to break it, that would be great. Take a trial, put it up on a machine, and just test it. And if it breaks, then does a bug report and some logs. That we would love to see that. And even if it works flawlessly, just send a message to us. We also like to hear that.
Great, and also just on that, exactly, run the trial. That's a good segue. We will be sending you an email after this, probably tomorrow now, with a download link, so you can just download it straight away from the email, as well as all of the places that Dan has already showed you where to go. Anything else before we wrap up, guys? Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I saw one question that's really quick. Anonymous asked, how do I activate the new API v2? And it comes with the new web interface. So you follow the instructions to activate the new web interface. It's linked in the knowledge base articles we showed you earlier. And once you have activated the new web interface, the API runs with it because it's based on that.
Great. Again, you will receive the slides, so you'll have all of the links in the slides as well after today.
Thanks for all the people that raised their hand for Proxmox. That was funny.
Yes, I noticed Proxmox a lot as well. So, great. All right, so the last slide is just to give you a heads up. We will be running these sessions more regularly with the team here, maybe different faces on your screen. But probably in November, we'll be back again asking the product team if Paessler PRTG can handle log data. So if you're interested in that topic, watch out on the webinar page of the website, but we should also be sending out invites to you as well. So you will become aware of that as and when it happens. So thank you again for joining us for 45 minutes, for showing some of the love and laughter there in your reactions. And thank you to the guys here for presenting and sharing the highlights from the product. So enjoy the rest of your day and we'll see you next time. Righty. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.